I hope you guys will forgive me if I go off on a few tangents on this one, because I found this module a little bit hard to review because it's just so similar to all the other modules in the Master set. And I decided to just talk about how difficult it is to make a Master level module and how 5th edition really doesn't address parts that Mystara got right. The more I read the Master level modules, the more I realize TSR really didn't have an idea what to do with them. There was only 5 of them made, and with the exception of Into the Maelstrom, they all seem to be different versions of previous modules. Epic level characters need more than a dungeon crawl, or in this case of this week's focus, it's just a scavenger hunt, even if it does take part on another plane. But that's what you get with 5 coins for a kingdom, just a series of sequential adventures to collect the magical coins, and then you get sent to another plane where you have another bunch of sequential adventures until you get to the seemingly mandatory mass combat that's in every master level set. It's by far the most railroady of the master level modules. I give Into the Maelstrom a pass because it was based on a Greek epic, so you have to recreate that in the order that it occurs. So, welcome to Mystara. This week we look at the 4th module in the Master Series. I'm Mr. Welch, and we're looking at 5 coins for a kingdom. Now, this module was written in 1987 by Robin Jenkins, who's best known for his work with RuneQuest and Tales from the Floating Vagabond before he became a staff writer for Atlas Games. John and Laura Lakey both did the cover and the interior art, which was a break from TSR traditional use of different artists between the cover and the interior art. Special mention is the cartographer William Reuter, as this module has a massive amount of maps compared to anything else that came before it. Jenkins wanted this module to be freestyle, played in the theater of the mind. TSR wasn't having any of that and put in a mind-blowing 13 maps, which as far as I can tell holds the record for any module from the TSR days. 5 coins from a kingdom technically starts in Norworld, but almost none of the module takes place there. The opening has a bad guy stealing an entire town and teleporting it away. A friendly wizard then appears in front of you to tell you that the big bad has a history of stealing towns and just teleporting them away. The big bad is on another plane of existence, and the only way to get to that plane is to find the 5 magical coins that work as a key to crossing the planes. This is the 2nd scavenger hunt in a row for the master level adventures. Instead of a color-coded keys like the previous one, this is you got to get one of each type of coin. There's quite a few similarities between Twilight Calling and 5 coins, though 5 coins does have a doozy of an ending that I won't spoil. And 5 coins is, again, very much a railroad. You get the 5 coins, then you have to do an encounter involving each of the coins, then you have a mass combat scene, and then you finally get to save your city. And that's the end of the module. If you're going to do world hopping as a DM, you need to make the new worlds memorable. The world has to be different enough to make it seem alien. Mystara has a problem with that, with their master level modules that just seem mainly like you're visiting another part of the planet. Plane shifting to Kryn or Orth would make for an interesting adventure with the culture shock, but that doesn't feel like plane shifting. But if you go through a portal to find yourself in the impossibly beautiful Mount Celestia, or the insane and unpredictable chaos of Limbo, or the otherworldly eternal spring of the Good Kingdom, then you know you're in a place that can't possibly exist. 5 coins is primarily set on the plane of Aloysia, which will remind you a lot of the shattered remains of Old Alphatia from Into the Maelstrom, with the chunks of land circling around a void. You got your 2 rival kingdoms, similar to Into the Maelstrom, one with the good wizards that are trying to help you, and one with the evil wizard that stole your land. The module has elements that seem to have been recycled into the Hollow World book, with the flying islands circling the sun. In fact, large elements of the book seems to be taken from other books or used by other books. It bears large similarities to several of the previous modules, though it has little to do with them. This is the only master level module that has nothing to do with Alphax, though. The fact that the module is a railroading scavenger hunt is going to turn off a lot of players at this point in the game. Master level modules have to be earth-shaking in scale. 30th level characters don't do dungeon crawls. An issue with the Master Series is they still focus on Norworld for much of the setting, despite the characters being plane-hopping juggernauts of destruction by this point. 5 coins temporarily sends them to another plane like Twilight Calling or Into the Maelstrom did, but they always return to Norworld. Jenkins did say the module was extremely difficult to write because it's hard to challenge characters at this level. And the module is Mystara in name only. You can use this plot in any setting. The Mad Wizard can just as easily steal Glantry City, Threshold, or Serene, for example. If you want to use the module in other settings, the target could be Tyr, Neol Dra, or Palanthus. I wouldn't recommend trying to do it with Sigil, because the lady tends to react badly to people messing with her city. And by react badly, I mean imagine Black and Decker's finest wares only with a personal grudge. The module doesn't challenge itself, in that the players are not going to have a lasting impact on the world at the end of the module. The place they do affect they can't go back to, so nobody knows what they've actually done. Okay, time to get this off my chest. The 3 pillars of game design that seems to be popular with 5th edition is about 2 pillars short of being complete. Mystara showcased that magnificently. The 3 pillars the 5e designers harp on are combat, exploration, and interaction. The focus of Mystara from companion level on was all about world building. The players are meant to carve out kingdoms and overthrow tyrannies. It's not about finishing the adventure, it's about making it a point to deliberately take actions to alter the very game world they're playing in. Whether you want to use diplomacy or violence, it's the focus on the goal rather than the method that matters for world building. The paths for immortality make world building almost mandatory in this setting, making for large political games late in the campaign. Another pillar that Mystara had a focus on was self-improvement for personal goals. This was a lot of games that come in the form of players providing subplots that need to be resolved in play. Now, it's not mandatory for a lot of campaigns. If the players just want to hack and slash, that's an illegitimate campaign. It does provide a method for the characters, however, to bond and create a cohesive party. The more the party interacts with each other in furthering their own individual goals, the better the party becomes. When you're making a campaign, get a few goals from each player that they want to accomplish, and if they accomplish their goal, give them an XP bonus along with any of the other players that helped in achieving it. And then you just keep coming up with subplots from the players, and when they accomplish the subplots, they get experience bonuses. It's got to be something that they just can't do on their own, and they're going to need help from the rest of the players. If they want to woo someone, the other players are going to have to play Cyrano de Bergerac to them. It's about getting feedback from the players on the kind of campaigns and side quests they want to do. It becomes less about how are you going to solve this adventure and more into the what kind of adventure am I going to throw myself into for my own entertainment. You're going to get more experience and more gold by going into generic dungeon number 7 to kill off Orc Chief number 5 than you are going to get helping the wizard get laid, but the players are going to remember having to play wingman for the awkward, stammering Harry Potter clone with the charisma of 8 than they are going to remember killing the Orc Chief. That makes for wonderful downtime adventures that just seem to be missing from a lot of the current 5th edition adventures. Okay, now I've had that on my chest for a while. I've always pushed people to set goals and reward them for meeting them, rather than focus on how the players are going to do it. Focus on what they are trying to do. It doesn't matter if they accomplish their goals, whether through violence, diplomacy, or guile, but it does matter whether if they succeed. If you want an original copy of the module, it runs for $50 on the low end on various secondhand market sites, but it goes up to about $100 for the better copies. The PDF is $5 as normal, and DriveThruRPG has reprints available for about $10. The downside to the PODs is they don't have the maps loose, and the book has tons of maps. So you might want to get the PDF copy and print out the maps, or go old school and photocopy the maps from the back of the book like we had to do in high school. I've really skimmed over 5 coins because the module bears so many traits to other modules. At its heart, it's a railroad with lots of big monsters that you're going to have to take down on your way to the next encounter, until you finish all the encounters and get to the fight with the big bad before he sends you into one of the most gonzo endings of any D&D module ever. That was another issue I had with the module, is the very last encounter requires heavy amounts of magic just to survive. So the fighters, dwarves, thieves, and halflings are just there along for the ride. It's the wizards and clerics shows in the very last part of the module. Next week I would normally break from the format and do an accessory rather than another module, but I really want to finish the Master Series. So next week come back for Talons of Night, the last of the Master Series. It introduces us to the Isle of Dawn for the first time, while you try to make peace between the Alphatian and Thyatis empires. So until next week, remember, epic level means never having to say you're sorry.